We start off with the market's latest gold rush. The precious metal soaring to a new record high today, topping the $2,200 mark for the first time ever. It just notched its best week since October and is up 20% over the past year. The latest rally coming alongside Bitcoin, which topped $70,000 during today's session. Rival crypto Ethereum also hitting a record. But stock markets taking a breather, ending a topsy-turvy week on a down note. The Nasdaq shedding over 1%, while the Dow shed 69 points, posting its worst week since October. So what does this apparent flight to the safety of gold tell you about the strength of this market rally? Rebecca, happy International Women's Day.
You too.
What do you make of this gold move?
I think what we're seeing with Bitcoin, gold, and stocks today, they're completely separate. There isn't one big macro factor driving this. In the case of gold, I'd highlight two main things. China and China. China's central bank put out data yesterday showing that they bought gold for a monthly for 16 months in a row. They're continuing to diversify reserves. That's not going to end, given where U.S.-China trade tensions are likely going. And then China consumer, you saw what happened in the two sessions policy meetings this week. They're not going to stimulate growth enough. The consumer can't make money in property, in stocks, in wealth management products, bank deposits. They're going into gold, and I think that's likely to continue, too. The rate story for gold is a risk because it could go either way in the short term. Right. But overall, I think there's some important structural supports there.
Yeah.
In 2022, central banks...
Can I stop you for a second?
Of course you can.
You've had a lot of jobs out there. He's worked at Domino's. He's been at UPS. Where else have you worked?
Shake Shack.
Shake Shack.
Uber, Lyft.
In addition to all those fantastic jobs. Yeah. This man was a gold trader. So I want to listen to this man's view on gold.
But
so
for real.
For real.
Today.
And he didn't have to wear a hairnet. Did you wear a hairnet at Goldman Sachs back in the day?
Only on the strange days. Central banks in 2022 bought 1,141 tons, $70 billion worth of gold. It was a record. Last year, they basically did about the same. It was, again, a record. This year, I'm sure they're on pace. Rebecca's right to bring up China. Central banks, and we've said this, they're hedging their own ineptitude, and I absolutely believe that. And gold's one of those things, and this is going to sound somewhat glib. It's not meant to be. It's not a story until it is, and it's becoming a story because we're leading tonight with it. And this could be one of these weekends where we walk in the same way we walked in a couple months ago, and gold has this ridiculous move on a Sunday night. That's what it's setting up for, because everybody might be bullish of gold, but the market is not long of gold yet. And when people start getting in, the institutions, and they try to put the amount of money they're putting into equities into the gold market is not that big. And I think people will take notice. Gold tells a much different story than other risk assets, and I think it's trying to tell the market something right now.
Is this move higher in advance of the Fed pivot of rates going lower?
I think gold has been sniffing out that the Fed has peaked somewhere. So we had a payroll number today, which on the headline looked good. We'll maybe get into that. We may not. But end of the day, this was a number that showed that the Fed certainly has a little bit more momentum on their side in terms of the labor market. I think gold, and I've said this, I'm amazed. People say gold's this crazy. What's this move gold doing? I'm saying, what took you so long? To me, gold was actually trading phenomenally well at different times over the last couple of years. But at other times when we thought, and I realize Karen says this all the time, there's an entire checklist of reasons you could say you want to own gold, and they seem to almost be for whatever flavor you want. But the reality is, gold has a 20-year chart. I've said this a lot. I think it's the best chart you can find right now. And the point is that over the last 20 years, the central banks have been slowly doing this. They haven't been rushing in. What's going on now is it's a combination of Federal Reserve dynamics. It's a combination of central bank buying. It's a combination of some sense that I think investors are piling in. I think digital gold people are buying regular gold. And I think there's a lot of reasons why that's happening. And I'll just throw in this.
All the holders out there, whatever you want to call them, they're buying gold?
Part of the reason Bitcoin exists and its reason for being is that there's fear of fiat currencies and central bank dynamics. Without having to take a political view, because no one wants and cares about my politics. You know, if you watched the State of the Union last night and you watched the rebuttal, I don't care which side you're on. We've got two different countries, and that's why gold is going higher. Gold traded today at a 91 RSI. That's usually like no big deal, but for tech stocks. But when gold trades at RSI, and Guy, I think you're saying this, like this is actually a time you want to buy gold when it looks like it's frothy, because I think actually you're seeing real allocation.
So I do believe it was Powell, and Guy talks a lot about this. What is the national debt right now?
34
There's a clock downtown.
Yeah, it keeps going. It moves pretty quick. 33 trillion and then some. It's probably closer to 34 right now. Debt to GDP is 123% right now. And I do think it was more Powell than anything else. I think China had a case in it. But I think you're going to see Bitcoin and gold continue to skyrocket because of those reasons.
I mean, if you're doubting sovereign credit right now, U.S. sovereign, I mean, you're a buyer of gold. It seems like everything is in place for that thesis as well.
Yeah, and to your point, political uncertainty, geopolitical uncertainty, we're all focused on the U.S. election this year, reasonably so, but there's also elections in the Middle East. There's elections in a lot of big countries. If you look at political certainty indices, they're not looking good, right? There's a lot of question marks around major governments around the world. And that, again, we can think about U.S. buyers in these emerging markets right now who are worried about their currencies being devalued. They're going to gold.